Assalamu alaikum. Ibn Khaldun is a Muslim thinker from the 8th century of the Hijri era or 14th century AD, who is mostly known for his visionary work about the rise and fall of civilizations and the fundamental differences between nomadic and sedentary lifestyles. For more details about him, you may check my previous video. But today, we're going to focus on one thing: his thoughts on food and deprivation of food, fasting, as well as their effects on human societies, body, and mind. Nowadays, we often hear about intermittent fasting and its benefits, but it's barely a rebranded version of a lifestyle people have known about and adopted for millennia. Ibn Khaldun gives food a particular place in his analysis of human history and societies because, as we all know, it is literally the only thing humans can't live without. Here's what he says, quote unquote: Allah created and fashioned man in a form that can live and subsist only with the help of food. He guided man to a natural desire for food and instilled him the power that enables him to obtain it. End of quote. That might sound obvious, but that natural need we all have for food has deep sociological implications. He adds that abundance and scarcity of food, regardless of the various inhabited regions of the world, affect not only the human body, but also its character. As we will see, food and fasting affect humans not only physically, but also in their moral fortitude. First of all, quite counterintuitively, Ibn Khaldun does not see abundance of food as a blessing, but as a curse. A poison gift, a curse that brings illness and physical weakness. He cites the prophetic tradition that says, "The stomach is the home of disease, fasting is the main medicine," and says that the overabundance of food amounts to adding new food to the body before the food that is already in the stomach has been digested, leading to potential dysfunctions and indigestion, because the food is not properly assimilated to bring strength to the organism. Having said that, Ibn Khaldun notices that the physical weakness coming from the abundance of food is more prevalent among sedentary people. By being exposed to such a variety of food, it inevitably includes ingredients or amounts that are not healthy for the body. Quote unquote. The incidence of such illnesses is more frequent among the inhabitants of sedentary areas and cities, because they live a life of plenty, they lack caution in taking food. This gives the nourishment a strange temper and often does not agree with the body and its parts. End of quote. This is compounded with the fact that city dwellers, by nature, generally lack exercise. As they are attached to a land that caters to all their needs, they no longer need to hunt or cultivate their own food. The incidence of illness is, therefore, much greater among sedentaries, which increases their need for medical services. Plus, Ibn Khaldun says that city dwellers are more vulnerable to famines, as they are not used to sudden privation or even slight changes in their diet, because their stomachs are too accustomed to food refinement and variety. On the other hand, Ibn Khaldun sees moderation in food as a blessing that strengthens the human body. He uses the example of Bedouins, who are so exposed to fasting that it has become a natural state for them. There is no adding of new food when the old food has not been completely digested. They routinely move around a lot to raise horses or camels, to go hunting or search for things needed by their group. And for that reason, writes Ibn Khaldun, their digestive system is much more efficient. Their temper is healthier and remote from illness. That is why their need for medical services is much smaller than city dwellers, quote unquote. Physicians are nowhere to be found in the desert. The only reason for this is the lack of need for them. Because if physicians were needed in the desert, there would be a livelihood for them to settle there. End of quote. On top of that, what Ibn Khaldun says is that nomadic culture, again in its very nature, is tailored for the satisfaction of merely basic needs. As nomads need to constantly roam around to survive, they need to travel light and give up on non-essential desires and material goods. As a consequence, that tough lifestyle does not only fortify them physically, but also forges their character, and has a humbling effect on their spirit. It brings them closer to a divine order. being accustomed with abstinence, reminding them that death or food and material insecurity could be just around the corner. And being exposed to so much danger strengthens their group feeling, family, and community ties, as no one can survive alone in such a harsh nomadic context. Ibn Khaldun compares them to camels, as they are patient, perseverant, and used to chronic hunger and thirst, quote unquote. It should be known that the influence of abundance upon the body is apparent even in matters of religion and divine worship. The frugal inhabitants of the desert and those of settled areas who have accustomed themselves to hunger and to abstinence from pleasures are found to be more religious and more ready for divine worship than people who live in luxury and abundance. End of quote. In other words, Bedouins are disinterested in accumulating profit and property. They are unattached to material goods or extravagancy in food consumption. That is why fasting gives us the feeling of disconnecting with the tendency of sedentary life to transform us into pleasure-seeking, hedonistic creators, in the endless pursuit of superfluous desires while being chronically unsatisfied. Because just like a drug, once a worldly desire is fulfilled, it is followed by a greater one, and that goes on until we become insatiable. Because on the other hand, Ibn Khaldun writes that improvement in material conditions and urbanization causes humans to rest and take it easy. At this stage, humans start cooperating for things beyond the bare necessities. We consume more food, clothes, or any source of pleasure, ending up developing luxury customs. But that disposition sedentary people have towards excessive pleasures is also what will cause their own ruin, corrupting their mind and soul. Quote unquote. Indeed, it can be observed that there are very few religious people in towns and cities, as people there are for the most part obdurate and careless. The existence of pious men and ascetics is, therefore, restricted to the desert, whose inhabitants eat frugally. Likewise, the condition of the inhabitants within a single city can be observed to differ according to the different distribution of luxury and abundance. End of quote. Ibn Khaldun thinks that what makes a man is his ability to procure basic necessities for himself and his group. A sedentary person, by definition, cannot take care of his needs personally. He is too physically and mentally weak because of the tranquility he enjoys. He neither produces the food he eats as he can buy it, nor protects himself as he has delegated that task to a state, an army, or a police. Another thing Ibn Khaldun suggests is that sedentary people, beside being patently weak, may also be too proud to work on those tasks, because they were brought up in prosperity, luxury, and peace, which sinks them deeper and deeper in weakness and corruption of mind. So, those are the benefits Ibn Khaldun sees in fasting. It goes way beyond a simple temporary privation. It is a way to reflect about our condition as human beings and the state of our moral fortitude. Breaking fast is not about abundance or the variety of the food we eat. The most important aspect when breaking fast is that you feel deep gratitude, gratefulness, and humility to the Creator of what nourishes us, who ensures our physical health, who gives life but also takes it away. Because of the exposition to luxury and superfluous desires, material advancement for Ibn Khaldun is inversely correlated to moral perfection, leading to complacency, misplaced faith in human actual abilities, and a misguided sense of the position we occupy in the universe. As we are, in fact, just simple mortals, with our physical and intellectual flaws, our lifespan, and our inability to create anything ex nihilo. That capacity being exclusive to the originator of the universe. By the way, little trivia, Ibn Khaldun was born on the 1st of Ramadan 732, which, talking about fasting, is an interesting coincidence. If you enjoyed that video, don't hesitate to like it and spread it to people you think it would be beneficial to. Your constructive feedback and reflections are very welcome. Assalamu alaikum and see you next time.